meeting to order. We'll start with a roll call. I will run down everyone's names here. Brian Casper, Chair, present. Danny Loftus George.
Hi, I'm here.
Hello. Nice to see you. Ava Jacobs.
Present.
Stephen Rust.
Hello, I'm here.
Hello. Melissa Matuska.
Here.
And Naomi Clark. Naomi is
Here.
muted, but there we go. Okay, so well, first we have public participation on the agenda, so I don't see any members of the public. Sabrina, is there anyone here
No.
that I
You're all
can't see? Okay. Okay, well, while we wait to see if anyone else is going to happen to join, I'll let Naomi introduce herself since she was not here. Oh, there's Bob. Hi, Bob. Bob Abriola just joined the meeting.
What's going on?
Good to see you. All right, so Naomi wasn't here last time, so I'll give her just a quick, 90 seconds to tell us what she's all about.
Sure.
Introduce yourself to everybody.
Fine. Hi, everybody. I'm glad to be here. My name's Naomi Clark. I am an artist and art teacher. I live in, obviously, Norwalk. I know Brian from many years ago. We worked together on some fun installation stuff. And I'm really excited to get more involved in the arts in Norwalk and see what we can do with some fun stuff. So happy to be here and nice to see everybody.
Excellent.
Okay.
We're glad to have you.
So
Okay,
Naomi's
so-
on the commission. She's on the commission.
That's right, voting member.
Oh, okay.
She's
Welcome.
our 9th member that we didn't have last meeting.
Yes.
Great. Welcome.
Thank you. Hi.
Sabrina, it's not in the agenda here to approve the minutes. Oh wait, never mind. I see it. First order of business, we need to approve the minutes of the August 1st meeting. Hi, Nori. Nori Gruden just joined. Do I have a motion to approve said minutes?
I will motion to approve the minutes.
Bob, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank
Ava.
you, Ava. All right, quickly run down to approve the minutes. I actually want to make one tiny correction that probably doesn't matter. It says that Mr. Allen called roll call when in fact I called roll call. It's a minor typo. It's the only thing that I noticed. Other than that, I approve these minutes. We'll quickly run down. Anyone else have any? I guess we'll just go down the list here. Danny Loftus George.
Approved.
Bob Abriola.
Approved.
Ava Jacobs.
Approved. Aye.
Melissa Matuska.
Approved.
Nori Gruden. You are likely muted, Nori. Or maybe not.
Oh, he acknowledged the attendance, not the roll call. Oh no, he did the roll call. You did the call to order. I see it.
Okay, we'll come back to Nori. Technical difficulties. Stephen Rust.
Approved.
And Naomi has to abstain because she was not present. Nori, do you have any corrections, approvals, disapprovals? Okay, well, the ayes carry. Oh,
You hear me?
I got you now.
Yes, it was on mute.
Do you approve the
Technical-
minutes as
Yes,
is,
I do.
or with the one correction? Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, moving right along. New business budget review with Mr. Bob Abriola. Take it away, Bob. What do you got for us?
You want me to do the budget review? Okay. I wanted to share, I took the file and did a little tweaking. Let me see if I can, oh, sorry. I took myself off video. All right. Give me a second here. I'm on my my work computer. So let's see. Microsoft Teams unknown. I just share my background? It's not a light. Someone's got to give me access to
Oh,
share.
I think Sabrina has to allow that.
You should have access. I'm not sure.
Allow Zoom to share your screen. What's going on here? Oh, there we go. Ah, fuck. Yeah, my administrator rights does not let me do it. Damn it.
Let
Alright,
me make
what
you
do I do?
let me
I'm
make you
gonna
a co-host, Bob, and then you should have the same.
Yeah, but you know what it is? I'm on Zoom and I'm on my work computer and they're not
Oh.
doing Zoom. So it's like an admin thing. So what I'll do is I'm going to email you, Sabrina,
Okay.
the Excel file that basically what I did was I took the annual budget and I added in months. So you'll see that. So other than that, Brian, I haven't done anything else other than to put it in a format for us to be able to each month track costs, and then we'll see how it rolls up at the end of the year. What I'd like to do is to do what we would call a plan for the year and what months the expenses would hit in. So you'll see that in the template. So one is like the forecast and one is the plan, and we can kind of see how costs are hitting every month. It's a lot easier to kind of review costs that way. So I'll send that over to Sabrina. She can then share it out. And other than that, I haven't done anything else with finance. The money's all still there.
Yeah.
There's 14,000 in there. So however we want to use it, we can use it. I just wanted to create a format for us to follow.
No, that's nice, rather than seeing this like grand total that's just this.
Yeah, exactly. We can see every month when the money's hitting, when we plan to have it hit. So we should probably, maybe I can do an offline call, but we should do a call to understand what we want to spend the money on. Maybe we do it here, and then I'll plug it into the months where it's going to actually, we think it's going to hit. And then that's a better way to manage our forecasting and our budget.
That sounds great.
Yep. So I'll go ahead and do that, but I'll send this to Sabrina. Give me a second and then she can share. But maybe just to speed things along, you can maybe move on to another topic. So I'm not holding things up here.
Okay. Can we go out of order there, Sabrina?
Yeah, that's fine since we're not voting.
Okay.
You can either, have the old business discussion or have the you're not alone in your own discussion now. That's totally fine.
Okay. Okay. Old business, the only thing we have here is to approve an amendment to the You Are Not Alone mural proposal to include an additional location. However, I feel like we have some hiccups there, Sabrina, that came on like today with the Board of Ed.
So
And
the Board of Ed is fine with the installation. They're just used to installing or having artwork installed on something that then gets affixed to the building rather than doing a mural right on the brick. I don't know if that's a hard and fast rule and that they won't be flexible on it, or if they will be flexible on it. But they're supportive of the project and they want something installed and they want this type of topic to be brought up. They're happy to partner. They're happy to, let us in and involve the students. It's just the method of installation that we're going to have to do some thinking on. But I think this one specifically was to include a second location, the Wilson Avenue wall.
yeah, I wonder, my apprehension. So just to give everybody a quick reminder, You're Not Alone was proposing to paint a mural on the side of Brian McMahon, which is what Sabrina's referring to. It's run through all the necessary channels. The last one we were waiting on was the Board of Ed, who is game, but we got two Bobs.
Recording in progress.
They're excited about the project, but yeah, as Sabrina just mentioned, they're a little worried about the application of the director to brick. And I guess what we were going to vote on was adding a second location to this However, I feel like Annika, I wish she was here, brought up, when this came up, it was this possibility that it was going to cut into her budget because now they have to search for additional materials. I guess we could still approve, potentially put the Wilson Avenue retaining wall up to a vote with the maybe of,
Yeah,
I don't know what. Yeah, okay.
you can do that and do, just say in the approval language, just amend the scope of work for the You Are Not Alone murals
Okay.
to include the Wilson Avenue.
So
location.
what they're hoping to do is still maintain the mural of Brian McMahon, but then they wanted to add this second location, which is sort of on the corner of like Wilson and Meadow. For those who remember, this was one of the proposed MLK locations. It's kind of this like retaining wall, it's just a big blank gray wall on Wilson Avenue. And part of the reason, well, first off, they just wanted to, use the money as much as they could, but also they got Ricardo Gonzalez, who goes by It's a Living on Instagram, as one of the artists who wants to participate in this with us. And he's Spanish speaking, and the hope would be that he would do something in Spanish on that wall, because that is basically adjacent, if not included in a largely Spanish speaking neighborhood. So that's why they're kind of tossing this one on there, in addition to the Brian McMahon, again, to just we're getting more for our money. So I guess that's what's up for, if you guys want to discuss this, or we can just jump straight into a vote. It's basically just approve this amendment that would include the second location, in addition to Brian McMahon.
Brian, how's it more for the money? I didn't follow
Yeah,
that part.
what's the cost again?
Well, we're giving them 25,000 for the project. And originally, they had said they wanted to do several, but then Mark brought up the point of he'd rather get something of significant merit for, we'd rather have one really amazing thing than get 4 mediocre,
Right.
smaller murals.
Okay.
So then they kind of backpedaled a little bit, and they started focusing on this high school as an easy to obtain location, and then to find one really great artist. I'm not sure who they've selected for that yet. I think it's someone semi-local. But then they started to explore the idea of a second location because they felt like they had the time and the extra funds to be able to make that happen. And so that's all I mean, is that rather than just do the high school, they want to do now 2, one in the high school and one a little bit more public on that Wilson Avenue retaining wall.
And they don't need more money. They can still
No.
do 25.
No, they want to keep it right there.
And it
And I
doesn't
think it's
scale
because,
back. The first idea, does it scale that one back?
so what is really where the change is here is they were having a really hard time finding a space and someone to be able to build these if you remember, there was going to be this sort of event, community-based event with live mural painting on smaller panels.
Right.
That is like almost dead in the water, to the point where either places are charging them to do the event, or they can't find people to build these walls, these sort of panels, like no one is being helpful there. And so then they're going to shift that community event to a documentary screening with maybe a small panel discussion, rather than have to do all these supplies and rent a space and maybe do something at the Wall Street Theater. Was sort of my first thought, because Mark has an easy tie to that space. So money being saved there can then be allocated to the second location,
Okay.
which personally I think is, while the community events are very important, the hope is that these public pieces really just spark conversation that's really at the core of their mission, rather than trying to bring in way too many players and way too many people to try to make this live painting event happen. That's the big difference, and that's the change here.
Do we need them to rewrite all that up for us though, so that we can vote on it? I mean,
Well, I think it's a matter of now just approving the second location.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll also have to vote on the specifics of this event when that does come up.
right, okay. Yeah.
Which they are still, working out, because they're trying to get these locations nailed first because we're running out of painting days, really.
Yeah.
A screening
we-
can happen in the middle of winter.
We already approved the money, so it's the second location. I'm
Yeah,
okay.
exactly.
We need to make a motion to vote.
Yeah.
Can I bring up a
Dan,
point?
yeah, please.
Yeah, I guess my concern is that this is the second time we've talked about putting public art in a place without input from the community. And I think the whole purpose of putting up public art is for the community. And I think going into a predominantly Latin speaking neighborhood, my community, and not getting feedback from them and just doing something and spending a very large amount of money to do it, especially with those people who are a lot of our community is hurting financially, to not get input from them is not the right course of action.
I don't think it's that they're not getting input. I mean, this is a public meeting. This is the place to put input. And as you see, no one ever shows up to
Totally.
say boo about
Sure,
it.
I totally get it, but I also know being an artist and being in this community before I was part of this commission, I didn't know about these meetings. It's certainly not advertised the same way in the Spanish-speaking community. You know, I think it is our job and our responsibility to care for our community. That's why we're here in the first place. And I think not getting their input or having no way of reaching out to them is irresponsible on our behalf.
Well, at
And
least
I'm not comfortable, voting on to do something unless I'm hearing from the community that we're advocating for.
well, the course of action needs to be that we need to solidify locations first before we even get into things like design. Like we don't have final designs from artists yet either way, because we don't have, the Board of Ed literally got back to us today about Brian McMahon. Which, we are up against a little bit of a time crunch with this. This definitely is going a lot faster than I think normally this happens. These locations need to be approved first before we can start to move into content, and to start to do some of that outreach that you're suggesting. And I agree with you, like, by all means, I know you always want to hear what people have to say about it. So yeah, I mean, I don't.
Can I just add, I just want to make a comment to that. Although that all sounds good, Danny, we've definitely done some projects in the community, and I had curated these tarps down on Washington Street. And when you open, you have to just be careful when you open up to the community what you're going to get, right? So everyone has an opinion about art and what they want to see, and it's hard to make everybody happy. So I think it's great to be inclusive. We just have to be careful that it doesn't hinder what we're trying to do, because you get too many people with opinions on what they want, and then it can stall the whole project. And I thought we did some great work down on Washington Street, but I don't know if I'd ever do that project again with the amount of restaurant owners that came and wanted to switch out art and didn't like, a certain color in front of their restaurant. It's just, everyone has an opinion with art, and you have to just be, really cautious about opening it up too much. So I feel like we can't work in a vacuum. So just to do it in a real strategic way where we can get input without compromising what we're trying to do.
I think as
Sure.
as the committee that is supposed to oversee and approve these things, that, we should of course be taking all these things into consideration. And there is, Bob is right, there's a little horse by committee sort of situation where you want to be a little careful. But by all means, I want to hear from people and take that into consideration. Someone who's live across the street from something should be able to say something.
Right.
And I will,
Yeah.
can I just add in a little color too? For the last projects that we did do, like the MLK murals, we did involve the community in a event of some sort. Like we had a cleanup where they met the artists, they were able to see what was going to be installed, they were able to talk to them. And I think that's kind of what we've been doing going forward with any large installation that we have, is that we have some sort of
Right.
event or connection to the community in some regard. So it's not
Right.
just like we're installing something random and no one ever sees it. So I would think that's our intent as well, kind of going forward. It's not just, we're slapping a mural up and telling people to deal with it. We're having something that
Absolutely.
announces it and does all that fun stuff before it's actually installed.
Naomi
just
wanted to
had
say
a
something.
thought. Yeah, I just had a thought that, I see what you're saying a lot, Danny. And I think that if there's a set amount of money to give art to the community, what's the best way to give it? Is it a mural where you know, murals are great, but like, or is it a visiting artist program that could maybe teach in elementary schools?
That's exactly it.
You know, so I think I love murals. I love obviously art and seeing it, but how do we infuse Norwalk with a passion and love for art beyond just a singular event? So if you can pay, I mean, you could pay 8 artists $1,000 to do a 4-week course, work with, if the schools are willing to work with us. I know Norwalk Public Schools doesn't, you know, is trying to raise their reputation. I think an arts program is something that is probably hard to run in some schools. You know, to be totally frank, I don't have enough knowledge about it at this moment, but I'm definitely willing to go and get it. So I think, you know, I love murals and I want that project to happen. And also, how can we really engage communities where it's benefiting the community? Like, you know, an event is nice, but it's also missable, forgettable, and maybe doesn't have the empathetic weight of like, hey, we're bringing an artist to do this and paying X amount of dollars. Whereas like, how can we really be of service to our community? So I think that does deserve a little bit more thought. If I don't know if I understood the budget correctly, so forgive me, but was it 14,000 or 40,000?
This is $25,000. $25,000 has already been allocated to You Are Not Alone Murals for them to bring their initiative to Norwalk.
Yeah, they came to us. Yeah, they came to us, Naomi, and presented the idea. So we didn't say we wanted to do murals and who can do it. They came to us with this idea, so we wanted to support it from the commission. I think you're bringing up good points that when we look at the budget and the funds and how we want to use our money and allocate, that's where all these ideas can kind of come up. But that was the genesis behind this mural project. They came to us with it, and Brian's been a supporter of them, and we all voted to agree to continue to support them.
And just to go back, was the annual budget, how much is the annual budget that we're working with?
The operating budget is currently $14,000.
1.4.
1.4, correct, but that does not include
Capital.
Yeah, any sort of capital budget requests such as this.
So
Or right, murals. I mean, we're talking about doing events in the future. I mean, there's all these changes can within the commission now allows us to also take outside money, which could also start to change the way this budget stuff
So
works.
is it like this
is separate from
25,000 is like we have it for the murals, but we don't have it for something else? Is it like, sounds a little bit like that?
correct. This came down as, you know, I mean, months ago, and it was one of those, you know, sort of use it or lose it scenario where we had this 25,000 left over, or not left over, but, you know, allocated for the Arts Commission, and it was up to us to find a use for it. And this is what has been voted on as the use, is to let You Are Not Alone Murals come in and do this. I think Stephen has had his hand up for about 25 minutes. I want to let him.
At least that. No, it can't be. Oh, we've been going 24 minutes. You're right. So I think I'd hate to jump into that discussion. This is a different topic entirely, but more technical, I guess. I think at one point we had another proposal or another mural idea where it was being painted on panels, and I think we decided that we were going to. That was not permanent enough, or it gave an impression of impermanence. I don't know. Was that seems like
this? I know. So there was an aspect of this sort of community event that they wanted to do that did include panels that were then going to get sort of spread around to the schools, like guidance counselors' offices or something like that.
On the panels, are you thinking of the display that we were doing in City Hall that was going down the hallway?
No, I don't think so. I think it was another building, whether it would be painted directly on the brick.
It was
it was at
Donovan's
Donovan's.
mural.
Yes, thanks.
Yeah, so that,
a year ago, yeah.
That's right.
That's separate from this.
That's a very different thing. I understand, but the idea of doing it on panels just seems as though it can be taken down in a heartbeat.
So you're okay. So you're bringing that up in relation to the Board of Ed's request.
That's right.
Gotcha. And I'm sure that is what's at play here, is they have some issue with the permanence or impermanence of whatever's going on in the building. Which to me seems like we'll just paint a new mural if you ever get to that point, but whatever. And I think Nori also has her hand up to say something. Nori, I want to let you speak.
Yeah, so I thought during the MLK thing, they were going to put up something at one of the fences. You remember that? We were going to do something for the fence.
So
Yeah,
the-
that's
yeah,
a separate project
That's a separate project.
that
with a
has been
separate
sort of-
budget.
Right.
Yeah, my only thing with the Wilson Avenue mural, if it's in Spanish, you know the community's gonna be in an uproar. If it's not in English or another language. That's just knowing Facebook, and I'm from Norwalk, and all those people who don't come to these meetings will sit there and just complain left and right about what language it's in. So I think it's a good idea to do something at Wilson Avenue.
I mean, you're starting to get into some of
Yeah.
Bob's horse by committee
Yeah.
scenario, and you know, the fact of the matter remains, we have a wide variety of backgrounds in this city, and we need to try to represent as many as we can. And
Mhm.
we are, you know, I would say, you know, we're effectively giving them one in English and one in Spanish.
Yeah.
If you have one in your neighborhood that is in Spanish and you have an issue with that,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna shut up,
Yeah.
because I feel like I'm
Yep.
gonna go off the rails here.
Exactly.
But
Yes.
I mean, I appreciate that perspective, and I appreciate you bringing that up. But in the end, it's like, you know, there's a Honduran population here. Like, come on now.
Exactly.
Let's not be punks about it.
Sometimes people
Yeah.
like to complain for the sake of complaining. So
Yeah, and you're talking about Facebook, so.
Yeah, exactly. So I like because the school wanted to do something with that fence. So part of me is like, if we do paneling, it's kind of like doing something with the fencing, and an artist is coming in, or the teachers are coming in and showing them about art. And we do the student exposition exhibits at City Hall. So why are the People's Gallery? So we could always tie that in.
Well,
as well.
that's a different. That
Yeah.
Eli Fence Avenue thing.
Yeah.
Eli Avenue Fence thing is a different project, but that is the hope with that project, to do something like you
Yeah.
described.
Yeah.
Naomi had her hand up next.
I saw in the minutes from last week that there was maybe going to be an activation with the high school participating in the mural. Is that?
They are still hoping to be able to do that in some capacity, but it's one of those, like, you know, chicken or the egg things where they're trying to get running out of painting days. This needs to be approved first before we can start to have some of these those events can happen whenever, and they're hoping to be able to work with people who are in the school system. They themselves are not experts in talking. I mean, even though one of them has written a book, it's not like a scientific essay. They're not experts in how to speak to teenagers specifically about this. So they want to make sure they're partnering with the right people to do that effectively. So that is still something that they are hoping to do. But again, key items first.
And I can chime in a little bit because I've been the contact for the Board of Ed for them on their behalf. The principal is supportive of this and wants to involve the student body in some capacity, not just, you know, slap a mural up and it's good to go. So the principal is on board for it. So it really is just a kind of how, like, does he want to have an assembly? Does he want to have, like, the art students be involved in some capacity? It's really up to the principal to kind of say what they would like to do and how it fits into their curriculum, but he's definitely supportive of it and wants to do something like that. So I think it's definitely possible and definitely on the
I
table.
volunteered myself to be a liaison between, I work in schools and I'm an art teacher. So if that, I think that seems like a really important component. So I would be happy to work with the schools to link that together.
The whole purpose of this project, just as a reminder for everyone, is, you know, it's murals that say you are not alone, hopefully in a variety of languages, that spark conversation. The whole point is to spark conversation, to be able to tell the other people around you that you are not alone in whatever it is you're going through. And that's just sort of like the catalyst for bigger, broader conversations, etc. And things like what you just described is exactly what they're hoping to do.
And if they need like teaching resources, or I
Cool.
just feel happy to help that happen, whatever
Great.
they need and the school needs.
I will probably end up putting you in touch with Annika because you know, she's really the point person for them and would love to have your help. Danny had his hand up next.
Yeah, one is obviously I don't mean to come in like a tornado. I know I'm obviously newer here, but you know, part of the reason why I obviously accepted the commission and I'm happy to be here is wanting to serve my community, the community of Norwalk, and I want to make sure I'm doing that to the best of my capabilities. In terms, I just want to be crystal clear. So one, you know, if proceeding with this mural, are there data points or any analytics in terms of the You're Not Alone murals and their productivity or
Dan, you're breaking up a lot.
Can you hear me now?
That's a little better, yeah.
Sorry, I think my finger was on the microphone. I'm really
okay.
worst technological person in the entire world. When it great artist.
That's better. That's better.
When it comes to you know, the murals themselves, are there any data points or analytics as to, you know, their productivity, or, you know, if they lead to positivity or sparking conversation? Is there anything there, you know, that we can look at? And the second
hard number wise, I'm not sure. I would have to ask them.
Okay.
Annika was here.
And the second question I have, I understand that the commission had voted for the 25,000 to be delegated to this mural project. Is that hard and fast, like that is finished, it must go to this project, or is that able to be shifted?
I mean, that's a good question. We of course can see, you know, balance sheets from them and things like that. If that's something we need to ask for, if we feel that, you know, the city is not getting their money's worth, so to speak. I mean, we can always vote for an audit of that, I think.
Oh no, I meant delegating the 25,000. Is that already like it must be delegated there, or can it shift?
We already voted on it.
I mean, we have already approved it. It's already been through the mayor. It's about to go to common council. It's pretty much set up. But
Awesome.
that doesn't mean that if you
it can shift, or it cannot shift.
I believe it cannot at this point. I mean, it could not pass common council. That's a possibility.
It cannot shift unless council or the council committee says no, essentially.
What's the issue, Dana? You want to use the money elsewhere?
No, my big concern is that, you know, if Naomi brought up a really good point that it's about education. And you know, it's about kids, and especially the two communities we're trying to target. It's about sparking conversation amongst young people. And I don't know if a mural is the best way to do that. That's why I specifically would love data on analytics there to find out, you know, if that's the best way, or if there are other incentives. I know how bad Norwalk is hurting right now in terms of a budget deficit with the public schools. So, you know, arts programming is the first thing to get cut. We all know that. So, you know, I go, is this the best move always to spend this much money on painting a wall versus helping our kids and educating them? Because there's so much data around youth and arts programming and what that means for kids, whether they're pursuing arts or not in their future. Obviously that data is there. So I'd love to see data, register it, and pick the best course of action for the community, like I think we all would.
I mean, it is also possible, you know, this could just expand out to something that is just a different project altogether. We can put in a capital request to put something like what you're describing, what Naomi has described together. I mean, we can put those things up whenever we want.
Cool.
And in fact, I would like to connect a lot more dots within, whether it be with the Department of Transportation or the Board of Ed and art, and whatever that means. I mean, for instance, we have like no bus shelters. Like, why aren't we doing anything about that? And how can we use some of our money to help facilitate something like that? So what you're describing, I think, is right, you know, right in line with what I think I agree should be happening. And by all means, like we can also chat about it offline and come up with like a solid plan.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's just, you know, here there's no bus shelters. Then let's find a way to spend 25,000 on sculptures that help people,
Absolutely.
however we can be helping our community where there are deficits elsewhere. I think we should be doing.
Totally.
Cool. Thank you.
Man, you're really gonna hate the $200,000 mural that's going on West Avenue.
No, you're right. Thank you.
Ava, you have your hand up.
Sorry, before you go, Ava, there's also the option to say, we don't want to add the Wilson Ave location.
Yeah.
And we want to use whatever leftover funding it is to support some educational component with the student body. That is, that's a position that the commission can take, that can say, as much as we would love an additional location, we would love more if we did an arts educational component with the school system with the remaining funding rather than an additional location.
There you go.
Oh, sorry, Ava.
Sabrina,
Oh, you're good. You kind of said what I was gonna say. When I went to an arts middle school and high school in an inner city, and we did a very similar initiative where I think I said this last week or last month, but we put up a huge mural that said something similar to "You Are Not Alone," and then we had a company called Breaking the Walls come, and they did like it was like a week-long assembly with every class, and it was actually life-changing. You really just got to know your peers a little bit better, and it was all about mental health tied to the mural. I know that it's not necessarily like an arts commission thing, but I'm wondering if we could do something like that with the school and connect with the school in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. You basically said what I was gonna say, Serena. So yeah.
Yeah. Nora, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask the question that Ava just mentioned, because if we're doing something on mental health, it's nice to have a mural, but what about giving access to the student body resources for mental health?
Absolutely.
So maybe using that money to, maybe the guidance counselors can help and say, because I know art therapy is a big thing, or it's getting to be a big thing, to teach them, do art therapy. Maybe they can get for the student body to hire people who know who do that for a living, or want to get involved in that, just so there's not just the mural, and we're doing more than that, because I'm worried, like Danny is putting a lot of stuff in my head, or like, are we tone deaf of putting up a mural if the community is suffering? But I think if you're doing it for mental health and doing more within programs with mental health, I think it would be better.
Yeah, and I think some of this and a project like this is really, people using the tools and the skills that they do have. I'm not a mental health expert yet for me to paint something that might inspire someone, whatever, not necessarily about mental health, but anything. That's me using what I have at my disposal. And I think at its heart, that's really what this initiative is about. It's artists going, okay, what can we do to help? And this is with what we have. So, but I hear you. Naomi, you have your hand up next.
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, a couple things. One, I do think that a mural can activate. That's what a piece of art does. It activates a community. So, whether it's talking about it or participating in the making of the mural, it is at the forefront in that time that it exists. It's activating that space. I think what a lot of private schools do, for 1 week, there's like almost a teach-in where you just focus on just kind of social emotional issues. And so I think that would be a really huge addition to public schools. I don't know how big we can make that kind of initiative or how much money that would cost, but it's like a week right before a winter break or a spring break where it's like a kind of like a teach-in, and there's the classes are different and they have speakers, and so that would be a great way to kind of use that resources. Yeah, a lot like what Ava was saying. It sounds like that's what her school did, and so I think that would be a good way to also be able to, as we say, we don't have to figure these things out now, but teachers do kind of have to plug it in. Schools will have to plug it in somewhere during the year because they have their calendars, So yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
And Melissa, you have your hand up next.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the overall commission because as the Arts Commission, we are making arts decisions. And I love that we're trying to, you know, involve the Board of Education and say, hey, let's start a conversation about mental health. I get that. But at the same time, I don't think that we should be making any of that programs. I think those discussions should be had as a group with the Board of Education. But I do want to also mention that we did have a committee that was the infrastructure committee that used to meet with the overall consensus of what did we want to bring back to this meeting of how do we want to, you know, spend money, allocate money as far as where we want to put funds towards art, and the discussion that we're having right now, because I mean, I love this discussion, but at the same time, one, we already voted and passed it a long time ago. So at this point, we're just waiting on them to tell us what locations they're choosing. And we're also now hearing that those, you know, may change, and that's fine. We'll give them more time. But that's really where I feel this should end. The other comments should go back to the infrastructure committee, which I don't think we have anymore because
now it's the special projects.
And then, yeah, and this is, I mean, I don't get me wrong, but this is now 20 minutes on this, and this is something that should be in a committee meeting.
It's been a half hour, yeah.
That's a fair point. And Melissa brings up, I mean, this $25,000 came down for us to find a way to use it for art. Like that's our role. That's what we were tasked with. Yeah, I mean, simply put. Ava, you have something to say?
Yeah, last thing. I don't know if you guys have had this here, or in California, we have this thing, or at least the town that I grew up in, where we had like Red Ribbon Week, for drug awareness, and it kind of turned into a whole city thing where like the entire city would tie like little red ribbons around all the posts, and it would kind of remind people don't do drugs. But I'm wondering if maybe there's something that we can do similar to that here with this, and make it kind of like a citywide, like art, invest that extra whatever amount of money into something that could we put things up places that are kind of like a mental health awareness art thing for a week.
Yeah, I mean, one of the original ideas, you know, was that we would put up several of them and we'd find property owners that were donating spaces, but then there came this issue of public money for private spaces, which we still need to hash out somewhere with legal, because I think that's something we should try to have access to. But yeah, I mean,
this is
sure,
like,
yeah,
I guess like a week long, like everybody, like let's talk about mental health in the city of Norwalk.
This, you know, this is money that we've given to You Not Alone Murals for them to basically say how they want to spend it, and for us to approve that or not. So the money has basically already been allocated, and now, you know, just to help tie it all back together, what we're here to do today is potentially vote on a second location. I think a lot of different points are brought up about, you know, maybe what to do or not to do with that. But at the end of the day, Melissa's point is probably the right one here, is that we are here to say how to use this money for art. And by all means, more things that facilitate conversations or whatever, or help to create a more well-rounded, you know, whatever experience in Norwalk, whatever that means as citizens, is valuable, but this is our role. So all this to say is, do I have a motion to vote on a second location for You Are Not Alone murals?
Yeah, long time. I'll vote to motion. I'll put a motion for the second location.
Do I have a second?
This is Melissa, I second that motion.
Okay, we will run through roll call, or I'll read off some names. You vote yay or nay. Brian Casper, I vote yay. Danny Loftus George.
I vote nay.
Bob Abriola.
Yay.
David Jacobs.
Yay.
You say again?
Yay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Melissa Matuska,
Yes.
Nori Gruden,
Yes.
Stephen Rust,
Yes.
and Naomi Clark.
Nay.
Nay. The ayes carry for a second location on Wilson Avenue so that you are now longer on the project. So hopefully this is going to common council next week, Sabrina? No, Thursday? This Thursday?
Yeah, on Tuesday, next
Next Tuesday,
Oh, the 12th. Yep.
to be finally voted on, and they're hoping to have this, these painting events happen in October, barring any other unforeseen Board of Ed or city stuff. And that's all we have on the agenda. Is there anything else?
I have
that
the
anyone?
budget stuff if you want. I have that ready.
Sure, let's get back to that.
Fun, right? Let's look at budget stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Great. So basically, I'll blow this up because even I can't see it that well. So these are the categories. These are the accounts that we have. We have 14.4. And I'm calling this the plan right there. So our plan for the year, that's our budget. So theoretically, I'd like to forecast out the year of like when we would use the money, what months. And the way this template works is as we use the money, we plug it in by the month. And our fiscal year starts June, right, Sabrina?
Yep.
Yep, soon. So June. So this is 11 plus 1 plus 11, 2 plus 10 all the way through. And it's just basic math. So we would get one view as to when we use the money. You'll see it. You can see the running balance at the end, what we have available. So nothing overly complicated, but just an easier view for us to see when we're supposed to use the money and how we're using it. Okay.
Okay.
So I built that out. And then this is what it was before. We basically just had this where you could see expenses, but you just don't know what months they've been hitting, right? So now I set it up so you can see what month, right? A little bit easier. And then these are just all the individual secretarial services. Like this is all the balances. So those are all the, I guess, are those GL accounts, right? GL accounts there. All right, so that's what I built, Brian.
Cool.
I'm happy to do a separate meeting and we can talk through what we want to spend the 14 grand on and what months it'll hit. That's not for me to say. I'm just here trying to manage the numbers.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of these obviously are just sort of standing, but I mean, the printing, duplicating, other professional services. I mean, yeah, there's ways that we could use marketing and things like that too. I mean, even do some of the things that, Danny's talking about, just, getting word out about what it is we're doing. There's room to use some of this money for that and to start to identify when and where.
Yep. So this is different, and I'm not an expert in this, but this is the Arts Commission budget, but then we have a capital expenditures budget, which is separate.
Right.
Which is separate from this.
And that's just basically us making requests, or rather, I guess, Sabrina making requests on our behalf, shooting for the stars. But yeah, that just kind of comes when it comes or when we request it.
Right.
I will caveat that by saying I think we have at this moment in time unspent capital of around $250,000.
Is that? But that's
$78,000.
Yep. So I actually
but
have
that's earmarked. That's earmarked for the things that we've already.
Yeah.
Like
so
leftover MLK.
50 of that is the Monroe Street mural. 200 of that is the West Avenue mural.
Yep.
25 of that is the You Are Not Alone murals. And then I think we have like another 20 floating.
I'm sharing it right now. It's it right there.
Yep. Yeah, and I think the two larger items there, especially the West Avenue, for we have bounced out as 150,000. I mean, those are all preliminary budgets too, that included things like power washing and priming and stuff. And I mean, just as sort of an FYI, those numbers I think could change when we start to get into the nitty gritty with Sunny and Ernesto, the two artists on that project. I think, and they even have line items for like contingencies and hiring local help and things like that too. So that's just so everybody remembers. Which we need to reach out to them. Oh, also, it reminds me, as long as we're talking about those two murals, we will likely have MJ and Josh here next meeting to present what I hope is a final or very close to final mural for that Monroe Street underpass to hopefully be installed next May. That's sort of where that project stands. And then I'm going to reach out to Ernesto and Sunny and get them moving too. One of the things that was sort of left on that was defining the text that we were putting on that, because originally it said the sound of Connecticut, which they just yanked off the website. And I think that has changed. So that's something to figure out. But anyway, a few hands. Ava? You're muted, Ava.
More for Bob. I would love to connect with you. I wanted to present this week, but I did not have my stuff together for events coming early 2024. So
Okay.
Yeah, I asked Ava to put together a couple ideas to present for us to hopefully get moving as kind of like a little trial for doing either a monthly or bi-monthly series of sort of creative events. And that's sort of what she's referring to.
Well, how about if anyone has ideas, they can, again, I'm not the approver of any of this, but if anyone has ideas that would hit a capital expense, send it to me. I can summarize it. We talk about the budget. I can say, here's all the ideas that came to me, and everyone can see them and decide where we want to potentially allocate money towards it.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Naomi?
So,
You're muted.
Sorry.
Okay.
Can you tell me again who is doing all those murals? Is it the same team or are there different
No.
teams? Different teams.
Monroe Street is two artists in California, MJ and Joshua Lindo Lawyer, and
Last name Jock.
Joshua. MJ and Joshua, it's a husband and wife.
Okay.
I can also email you their stuff.
Yeah. I just would like to see who's doing which murals.
I
Are
can
they all
even
from
email
out
you
of
the.
town? Like, are they all?
Yeah.
From... Yeah. And so
We
if
put an open call out.
Cool.
And that's just who got the votes, man.
it was a whole bidding, and we had,
Yeah.
we had extraordinary artists from all over the world.
And then West Avenue is, again, it's a duo, not related. Ernesto, I'm blanking on his last name. Wow. Ernesto.
Marjorie.
Manahe.
Yeah, something like that.
And Sunny Bayham. Ernesto's from Florida and Sunny's from South Africa. And just to tie this back into some of the event stuff that you and Danny brought up, the hope is that when we have these visiting artists in town, that we can also utilize them and activate them for either events with Ava, or I've even talked to Duvian at the Art Space of doing whether it be as simple as an artist talk or something more involved. I mean, all of them have pretty incredible stories, especially Ernesto. He's like a vet from the Cuban army or something crazy. And he found art as a way to deal with his PTSD. So he's got a pretty incredible story. But anyway, that's the artist there. So
is there money for a school program? Would that be a capital expense, Bob?
Yeah, if we were to do something, if we were to define some sort of like larger program like that, we would have to put up a request.
Yeah.
For whatever that money would be. But by all means, if you've got ideas, let's hear it.
Our commission budget is like more for like the services that we do and communication but not
advertising.
Like advertising, any of the capital projects, whatever we want them to be, that's a separate cost. And I'm not an expert, so Sabrina, keep me honest on
Nope,
budget.
you're 100% right. So anything that's a larger expense or a larger programmatic kind of expense that we're looking to make, that's all a capital request. We've put it in a larger bucket at this point under the arts in public places kind of umbrella, which essentially is just, blanketly money for public art. But when I do go with the request every year, we give them project examples of what we're looking to do for that upcoming year.
Mhm.
And we can ask for money now, right? So that's the difference where we weren't,
Yeah.
we can actually get
And we
money
can,
outside.
I mean,
that's
the events that
that's
Ava's
the-
proposing, she could charge for those events. I mean, we could start making money literally on the events, or even taking donations at those events. Like there's
Exactly.
ways for us to drum up extra money now that we're not possible 2 months ago, 3 months ago.
That's my
Right, Steve?
question, actually. Yeah,
Yeah.
is that donations go into the capital budget, right?
The donations actually go into a separate account that is neither operating nor capital. It's a separate account just for us. But it can be used for anything. It can be used for operations, it can be used for marketing, it could be used for events, it could be used for installation of art, it can be used for pretty much anything. It's the most flexible account we have.
Thanks.
Okay. Anyone else before we get out of here?
I have a new business thing if this is the appropriate time. I don't know. what-
Yeah. Well, not really, but take it away.
No, I'll wait. I'll wait.
Well, wait till next month.
Oh, no, not till
We
next
already went over new business.
No. We went past new business already. Really. I didn't see that. Sorry. So this is Danny and I actually met the other day and talked about a couple things. And one thing I've seen come up a bit is, there's sometimes a stage put up in front of 50 Washington for various events and things. I think one was put up for the Arts Festival 2 weeks ago or something like that. There may be other places in town where stages might be set up, and power sounds like it's an issue in most of these locations. And I'm wondering what the mechanism is, and this should not be Arts Council funding, but what is the mechanism to recommending power, in the theater world, we call it a company switch, but to recommending power and seeing if that's something the city would be interested in installing?
It would be through our Public Works Department or through our Parks and Rec Department. I'm leaning more towards Parks and Rec, Rec and Parks here, sorry. Because they usually manage the facilities where the power would be accessible. But DPW usually is the people who usually install the physical mechanisms on the city's behalf from an infrastructure perspective.
Okay. What do you think, Sabrina? Is that something that we should pursue?
I think it's possible. We can reach out to them and see if they have any plans for that, because they could have plans for it that we're just not privy to at the moment. And as we're doing more events from a city perspective, we're going to need more access anyways.
Absolutely.
So we can definitely start that discussion. I'll let you know what they say. I can reach out and get some information.
Okay. Yeah.
I like that you're already thinking about the nitty gritty. I appreciate that, because I definitely want to see more like music and theater things happening, and this is like one of those things that no one else is going to think about except for you. So I really appreciate that.
Okay.
The only dance.
Thanks. So we'll leave that Sabrina, you're going to talk to the city agencies. Yeah.
Yep. I'll talk to them and reach out and see if they have any plans. And if not, if they'd be supportive of installing additional capacity.
It can be pretty simple. It doesn't have to be a huge amount of power, but maybe 2 or 3 locations around town. I don't know. We can sort that out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Others? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn.
And so Melissa, I second.
Thank you. Brian Casper, I vote aye to adjourn. Daniel Loftus George. He wants to stay all night. You're muted, Danny. I'll come back to you. Bob Abriola,
Aye.
Ava Jacobs,
Aye.
Melissa Matuska,
I
Nori Gruden,
I,
Stephen Rust,
Aye.
Naomi Clark,
Aye.
Danny. Lost him. Okay, well, I don't think he wants to stick.
So
around.
sorry, I.
All right. The ayes carry. I will see everybody in a month, if not sooner.
Peace.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Aye.